Hey everyone, welcome to another exciting episode of the Scratch the Track podcast presented by the Dude and Grum Show and co-produced by Mr. IVEST. I am the Dude.
And I am Grim. And today we are going to discuss one of my favorites, and that is Sky Blue Sky by Wilco.
Oh, and what a blue sky it is. Blue sky at morning, now, neighbor take warning.
Interestingly enough, I was pretty interested that they talked about where the title of the album came from. Did you read that?
I did.
And it was just a reference to a memory that Jeff Tweedy had about this Memorial Day parade in his hometown, in which he was coming home from somewhere and the parade blocked the street and he couldn't get home.
Yeah, it's like awesome. I guess there's only one way home, right? Only one way home.
And I like the picture. It's an interesting picture with all the birds.
Yeah, well, that's what they said. The cover photo is actually by this guy named Manuel Presti, and it is titled Sky Chase. But this photo helped him win the 2005 Wildlife Photographer of the Year competition.
Oh, that's cool. So,
yeah. And I had no idea it was actually a real photo. Like, I looked at it and I was like, oh, it's a cool cover. But I'm like, whoa, now that I know it's like a real photo, it's a whole lot cooler.
It is really cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Well, Grim, I think we should actually take a second to remind everyone out there to go ahead and give us a like, subscribe. And 2022 is off to a hot start.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about it.
Now, speaking of 2022 and just the Scratch Track podcast in general, one thing I've always liked is that if we give a little bit of a shout out or acknowledgement to any of those whom are our dear friends that may have turned us on to such things. Now, I had heard about Wilco plenty, but for some reason at that time, they were just a band that was off my radar, and I didn't really want to put them on my radar. And I don't know why, because they're one of my favorite bands now. Right. But at the time they weren't. But Mr. Fan of the show, Mr. Mike Stroshine, was the one who turned me on to Wilco with this album. And so, Stro, big shout out. Thank you, my man.
Yeah. Well, I got to say that it was passed on to me by you. And we did an episode last year where it was essentially like with Wilco, they have many albums, like which one do you start with, and everything. And, and also which one was your favorite, because over the years, I have not been able to get into Wilco. I have tried and tried.
That's where I was at then.
And I just couldn't. And then I knew we were going to do this episode, and I was like, all right, I'll listen to it. And actually, this is the one that I put it on and I liked it. I think I liked the real melancholy feel to it. And, having done some research on it, really it sounds like they wanted to be less experimental in the creation of this album. And they said they were influenced more by the Beatles, Beach Boys, and Stones.
I could see that,
and which is weird though, because I think of those bands as pretty experimental, but it sounded like they just kind of wanted to simplify things in the studio. Not to get as crazy.
And if you listen to what came before it, I mean, A Ghost is Born is, I would argue, a lot more experimental than this one. And that was the predecessor to this one. I mean, this is their 6th album. But see, now the band, honest to God, they underwent a lot of changes. And they started out as before alt country was a thing. I mean, they were Tweedy's previous project called Uncle Tupelo was kind of like the predecessor to that alt country, and early Wilco sort of continued in that direction. And it wasn't until Yankee Hotel Foxtrot where they really went into another direction. And there's actually a really good documentary about that album. Now, that is not my favorite Wilco album, but I appreciate it for what it is, because I mean, dude, for them, that was like their Kid A, if you want to put it to a band that is one of your favorites. I mean, that album just took them. They didn't even make a left turn. They made 3 lefts, which I guess they were going in the same direction.
Yeah, okay. I was going to say, yeah.
And then a right. And then a right.
And then a right. Right. Well, just kind of, you were talking about a little bit that their lineup had kind of changed a lot. And I think, with this album, they had, I don't know if it was 2 new members, but it's the first album with Nels Cline and Pat Sampson. I think that's what I read. Those are 2 of the newer members.
Now that's surprising to me because I thought that Nels Cline was on A Ghost Is Born, and that could quite honestly be a mistake on my part, but I really thought that Nels Cline was on that album. Interesting.
That's what I said.
I'm kind of, no, I know. I read it too. I'm looking down at it. Oh, maybe
it was the band's first studio album with guitarist.
Oh, maybe Jim O'Rourke played some of those interesting guitar parts on the other one. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
But dude, I will tell you, like, both of those guys, Nels Cline and Pat Sansoni, I mean, make their mark known really, really well on this album, because I will say, having seen Wilco live, like, dude, one of the highlights of that concert, and not just for me, but like clearly for everyone in the audience, was, dude, Nels Cline's solo on Impossible Germany. Like, dude, and Side with the Seeds. I think he does an awesome job on that too. But like, I like that he came in and just made his mark known. And I had not honestly heard of Nels Cline before that, but he's kind of, I guess, self-described, or maybe not self-described, as a real like experimental guitarist.
Okay.
And in this album, I think he plays a little more straight ahead, but in some of Wilco's later stuff, like my favorite album of theirs, Star Wars, he plays some guitar parts that just, it's almost like if Tom Morello was less like I could only compare him to Tom Morello. Not that he plays that kind of stuff, but it's just that he approaches it in a way that I just don't think anyone else does.
Right. I gotcha. That makes sense. Cool. Well, I will say, after listening to this album, I dig it a lot. I just like the mood, man. It's very mellow. And I feel like it's something I can kind of have on. Now, we kind of discussed a little bit of sort of some of the reviews and things. Some people praised it. Other people like Play Louder and Pitchfork criticized it as kind of dad rock.
And to those folks, I would throw out a big fat, what the fuck is that shit? Because I like this album when I first heard it, and I guess
probably wouldn't have been a dad.
I guess I was a dad, though.
Well, I like it, and I'm not.
I guess I was a dad, but you know what? Still, go F yourself, because I still don't consider it dad rock in any way.
Right. Yeah, no, I enjoyed it, man. I really liked it, and it seemed to be, at the time it came out, it was pretty successful for them. Like, I think they said it debuted at number 4 on the Billboard 200 and started getting some play. However, they did get some flack from some fans and media for kind of pushing it into some commercials. And so some Volkswagen commercials, they had a few songs.
Oh, interesting.
Playing in the background. You Are My Face and The Thanks I Get were
good
playing in the background.
Now, The Thanks I Get is one of those additional tracks.
That didn't
There's
make
like
it.
6 of them.
Yeah. Well, so initially, it says that they recorded 18 for the album, and then 12 of them were selected for the album. And if you downloaded it on iTunes, you got an extra track, which was, I believe, Let's Not Get Carried Away.
Yeah.
And then there was also on their MySpace page, because that was still a thing at the time, The Thanks I Get, there was like a full band version. So, they were experimenting with kind of some different packaging and whatnot. So.
Now, it's funny when you talked about what the music reminds you of, and we kind of talked about some of the criticisms or what the critics said about it. And there was Blender, I guess, gave it a 3.5 out of 5 star review. And the reviewer, now as much as I love this album and I in many ways take personal offense to some of the other stuff, I do find humor in this review. And it said it often feels like the Grateful Dead's American Beauty if Jerry Garcia had taken Paxil instead of acid.
Dude, I think that's amazing.
It is really funny. And now
I'm all over it.
And honestly, Jeff Tweedy, I guess, had a thing with like pills. Like that was his thing. And there's even a song on, I'm pretty sure A Ghost Is Born about that, called Handshake Drugs, which is my favorite track on that album.
Yeah. You know, I was thinking as you were kind of talking about, Blender gave it like a 3.5 out of 5. I know you and I aren't huge into like ratings and stuff like that, but maybe there should be like a Dude and Grim show rating. Like, what if we did something like 8 stars? Like just something that it just doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
It's like everybody has 5 stars, or maybe it's a 4-star restaurant.
Oh, 8 stars total. I thought you were talking about out of 10, and I was like, I'd probably give it 9, but dude. Okay.
Just like 8 stars.
8 stars. 8.5. I don't know.
Yeah. 8 3/4 stars.
I like that.
You know?
Yeah.
So, I don't know. It'd be a cool ranking system.
Dude,
we'll keep thinking about that.
Yeah.
If anybody else has ideas, please let us know.
Oh, yeah. Below, after you go ahead.
Like, subscribe, and comment below. Yes. And while you're doing that, depending on if you're watching us on YouTube, please know that we're on your favorite podcasting platforms. And if you're listening to us on your favorite podcasting platform and you want to see our beautiful faces, well, you can check us out on YouTube.
Look no further. Dude, I gotta say, I received an email the other day, and I was pleasantly surprised at the amount of audio podcast downloads for the last episode.
Yeah, it's like 629 or something.
Yeah.
Wasn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I didn't like write up my 2-week letter or anything, but I was happy with that.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So
getting that 2022 push, I guess.
Yeah. So on to the album.
Want to get into the songs here? Or?
Not quite yet. One thing I wanna talk about is the presence in this album and overall of Jim O'Rourke, who I guess is a pretty impressive musician and producer in his own right. But Jim O'Rourke was pretty instrumental, I guess, in the production of Yankee Hotel Foxtrot. Because they wanted to go in this different direction, have a different sound. And the producer that they were working with, when he mixed the album, they didn't feel like it had what they wanted. And so I guess Jim O'Rourke came in and he mixed just the first track of the album, I'm Trying to Break Your Heart. And the way, and dude, when you listen to it, it totally has all the experimental kind of shit that you would expect. So I guess he mixed just that track, and the band was so impressed, they were like, we want this guy to mix the rest of the album. Awesome. So he's kind of been, I don't know.
Makes them doubly, huh?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd go so far as to say like a part of the band, but I mean, he played guitar on A Ghost Is Born, and he played some stuff on this album too. And one thing that I love is he's credited with feedback on song number 2, You Are My Face, which I think is funny because there is a really nice feedback build up when the song kind of really pops in there.
I did read though, like he actually had minimal involvement in this album. Like
in comparison, but I like the fact that he's still there. And he did string arrangements on a couple songs. I mean, for minimal involvement, if you're having someone do your string arrangements, in my opinion, that's still pretty cool.
Yeah, it's not like he was in the background doing alternate percussion.
Well, he was actually on song 8.
I mean, but
but I love it. And dude, if you can get credited with feedback on a song like that, you win. Like
he just played he played the shakers on this album.
Yeah.
They said, "Look, we know feedback. You basically did everything on the past 2 albums. We're kind of wanting to go in a different direction. Here are the shakers."
Yeah, but for this song, just turn up the volume on the guitar. Don't play anything and just hold it real close to the amp until it just. I love it.
Do that.
I love it.
Do that. Love it.
So,
with that, Grim.
Yeah, I think we can kind of get into the tracks there, Deuteronomy.
I'm good either way.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you like that segue?
Yeah. I do. And honestly, really, really like how that album starts. It like either way sets the tone in such a nice way, in the way how it like kind of subtly comes in. And
dude, the guitar it literally itself is very warm and inviting.
Yes.
Just the sound of that guitar. And I think that's what hit me right when I first listened to this album. And I'd kind of been waiting, give me a sign, universe, to like this band. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is really good. You know, one thing I forgot to say, and I'm sorry because we already started the tracks, but I'm calling the audible and I'm doing it. Just start the episode over.
Dude, they recorded this album in the way I've always wanted to record albums. And I guess I have, but not nearly as freaking cool. No, dude, the studio that they used is the Wilco Loft in Chicago. So apparently they have this, like, I don't know if it's a whole floor or what of a building. And like, since the time of, I think just before Yankee Hotel Foxtrot came out, they have the Wilco Loft, and it is just, dude.
It's an Irving Park, yeah.
There's a picture of it in the album. I will actually take a picture of this so that our lovely listeners can see it. But dude, it's awesome. I mean, it's like this huge room, and it's like it's a studio, but it's their own studio, and it has all their gear in it, and they can just go there and record.
It's just set up, ready to rock.
Yeah. And to me, that is, I couldn't think of a cooler way to record an album.
But that's cool. I
Track
like it.
2.
Track 2. Yeah. So you are my face.
Mm-hmm.
I found it interesting though that this is one of the tracks that was used in a Volkswagen commercial. I'd like to actually see that commercial.
I would too.
Yeah.
I can only imagine it has to be in the part where it hits, because that's what I love is either way stays fairly subdued throughout that song. But when You Are My Face hits, you're going in a different direction.
Well, and this is where I need to warn some of the Wilco fans, because there are a number of tracks that just remind me. I'm not saying, anything was stolen or ripped off or anything like that, but it just, I don't even know influence. But
it's
when
not
I hear
songs
it, I'm like,
with the same riff here.
It reminds me of a certain song. And so that part where you're talking about like where it hits completely reminds me of Neil Young's Southern Man. The way the piano hits and the guitar.
I could.
It the way the guitar, it really reminds me of Southern Man. It just does.
I can't disagree with that. I mean, you're not calling it a ripoff. You're just saying it reminds you of it.
Yeah. It's the finest form of flattery, imitation, right? So number what?
No, that's good use of that line.
It is. Number 3, Impossible Germany, easily my favorite song on the album, dude. Like, I don't know if that's for you, but it's easily my favorite.
Oh, I think earlier when I said Shake It Off, I meant Side with the Seeds, dude. Side with the Seeds that's like, with that and Impossible Germany, for me, that's like a 1A and 1B, because that solo on Side with the Seeds, when he ends on that high note, I mean, you're just like, you could not have chosen those notes any better. But same thing, like I said, when I saw him live, dude, this solo was easily a highlight of the whole concert for me and everybody else in that venue. I mean, it was.
Now, when, I saw them live years and years and years ago.
You did?
I didn't. Yeah, they played at Outside Lands Festival in San Francisco.
Did you actually watch them, or they were just there?
Yeah, I was watching it for a bit and then just left. Like I never really listened to them. I didn't know them.
So if you don't know all the songs, when I went to see them,
I was like, okay.
Yeah, like Star Wars had just come out, and I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. Yeah.
You're like, I love Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but now when they play live or played this song live, did they kind of just stick sort of to the album version, or did they kind of jam out a little more longer, like, on the solos and stuff, or did they keep it pretty tight? Did they keep it pretty tight?
Oh, they're tight even if they extend it. But I know what you mean. No, it was not like a dead thing where the song went on for like 15 minutes. They may have let the solo go a little bit, but I feel like in this song, I mean, it's almost 6 minutes long. The solo's got a pretty hefty spot as it is.
I mean, halfway through the song, there's no more singing, and it just transitions really into that sort of, I will say a jam, not that they're a jam band, but halfway through, all of a sudden it turns into a jam, and it transitions really nicely to different parts.
And I love the odd World War II references in the song. Like, dude, impossible Germany, unlikely Japan. It's just kind of a weird... It's interesting lyrics that you just won't hear anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, then we move on to the self-titled track, and we kind of talked a little bit already about, Sky Blue Sky kind of referenced the, him as a child in a small town and just like kind of wanting to get out. Now, this song also reminds me of another song, Graham, and you made mention to the Grateful Dead and the album American Beauty. This song really reminds me of Ripple.
Oh, really? Minus the mandolin.
Way it starts. Minus the mandolin. And I believe Ripple, I think, is more like finger picking, and this one doesn't seem to be.
Well, but, a little more,
But right in the beginning, I just feel like I can hear like Jerry. I expect Jerry to come in. And he does. His voice reminds me of Jerry at times too. It really does.
I could see that. And it's funny because for me, this song like kind of goes back to the vibe that you had established already in Either Way.
Totally. Yes. I definitely agree. And one thing, once I kind of learned about the influence of the name of the album and I guess this song about, the kind of cool story of him just being like, I'm this little kid and I already know, like, I got to get out of this place, this small town. It actually reminded me a little bit. Have you ever seen the movie What's Eating Gilbert Grape with Johnny Depp and Leo? I have
it, and my wife references that movie all the time. If you're talking about somebody who just really let themselves go.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny though because it kind of reminds me of that because it takes place in this kind of like small town, right? And it's like,
and they just want to get the hell out of there.
Well, Johnny Depp is like, he's like, a little bit older, and he's just like ready to go, but he's like, Leo is I don't know the best way to, I don't know the most PC way to say this, but he's has challenges. Their mom like lives at home and she weighs like 400 pounds.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I knew the mom was like morbidly obese.
And he works at a grocery store and he's having an affair with like this other woman. And it's just, he wants to get out. And it just kind of, when I heard this story, it really reminded me of that kind of small town lifestyle and mentality. So,
well, and the lyrics kind of say it too, where he's like, it's good enough for now. Mm-hmm. To me, that lyric really goes, and I guess I never would have put that together until reading more into this.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have either. Now moving on, track number 5, Side with Seeds.
Dude, Side with the Seeds. Oh, dude,
was it with the seeds?
Yeah. Again, I love the lyrics. Some side with the leaves, some side with the seeds. It's just, it's just a very interesting way of speaking, but somehow you can relate to it. Yeah.
One thing, from listening to this and then listening, I'm not as familiar with some of their previous work and everything. They have this thing where I noticed on a few songs on this album where it starts off very kind of slow and melodic, and then the song
picks up,
and then the song really picks up, and there is this, I don't know if I say a formula, but a little bit of a pattern.
Sure.
And it really gets full, and the instrumentation, I just think it's really exceptional. At the same time, it still meshes well, and it doesn't overly show off. Like, I don't find anything really overpowering anything else.
Yeah, no,
I mean, the guitar does stand out at times, but it's not some like, crazy like Eddie Van Halen solo or something like that. You know what I mean? Like it's just not.
It's the opposite of what they say in Spinal Tap, where they're like, oh, it's just mixed wrong. I mean, dude, it's mixed so perfectly.
It is. It's done very, very well.
And one thing I have to say that I think is funny is, so you look at the lineup of musicians. So in this song, for example, you had Pat Sanzone playing the Hammond A100 organ. Now, another band member, Mikhail Jorgensen, is also credited with playing the Hammond A100 organ and the Hammond B3 organ. Now, this is where I turn into a real nerd, so apologize. Now, behind me, I have a Hammond A100 organ. And the thing about Hammond organs is it's all about the controls and what you can do with the organ. And why I have a Hammond organ, Hammond A100 as opposed to a B3 is about an $8,000 to $9,000 difference. See, because the B3 is set up in its bench style. It's basically an A100 is the exact same guts as a B3 plus reverb. But me, I never use a reverb because I bypass it to go out to the Leslie. But it's just interesting because they reference both those organs. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's the same guts in the thing. And I'm like, why would you have an A100 and a B3? Like, you just have one of them. The B3 is like when you've made it as a musician and you have money, you buy a completely restored B3 for like 10 to 15 grand. Where me, I find a Hammond A100 for $1,000 and run that thing, and dude, you record it, you don't know the difference.
Frickin' Bob's your uncle. Yeah.
Yeah, Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, I'm with you.
So sorry, that was real dork, but that's me.
It's great. I think we need to just kind of shake it off, Grim. Dude, again, I got to say, this one has another Grateful Dead kind of sound to me.
Which one?
The way you, that's the thing. I couldn't pinpoint which one it was. Maybe it's just the whole feel, the whole realm. But he does sound a little bit like Jerry, I think, in the way he sings it.
Now, let me ask you, if you were to have to choose, because the fans really did not dig our format, Songs of the Same Name, which I think is an amazing format, but they did not like it. Anyways, would you choose this Shake It Off or the Shake It Off by Taylor Swift? Because I know my 6-year-old daughter is definitely going T Swift on this. I'm not.
Ooh, I would go with this one.
I'm going Wilco.
Definitely. I was almost going to say, gosh, isn't there a Stones Shake It Off? I feel like there should be. There's
Probably.
There's Rocks Off,
dude.
right?
Dude,
or Get Your Rocks Off? I don't know.
Dude, it's such a good song.
Exile on Main Street. All right. Please be patient with me. So, I got another one for you, Grim. I feel like, dude, this is an Elliott Smith song.
Oh, I could see that. Yeah, if you doubled if Tweety would have doubled the vocals, no problem. No problem.
Or like, dude, like part of me is like, is this like a cover? Like it just has that
really?
acoustic feel. I mean, it could. I mean, I don't think it is, but it just has, it's straight acoustic pretty much, and then you got the lyrics. It just has that. I don't know. It just has that sound and feel to it, where it just is very Elliott Smith to me.
I hear you on that, but I like it because of the lyrical content, and anyone who's been in a relationship when you're going through a hard time, I feel like you can relate to that sentiment because he says, I must warn you, I'm not well. And you're just kind of like, look, I'm just kind of going through some shit right now. So just, give me a minute. And I like it for that because I think it's a really honest kind of song. And just because it talks about that doesn't mean it's dad rock. Other people go through stuff too.
Exactly. Jeez.
But as a dad, I can definitely see that too. Because even with your kids, you're just like, oh, Jesus.
It's like, I hate it here.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's the name of the next song.
Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. Well,
now this one has horns in it, doesn't it?
Oh, it's possible.
Maybe not. Anyways,
so Tweety, I guess, in an interview said this song kind of describes a man who he tries to fill his free time with chores after breaking up with his lover.
Yeah, sorry, I was thinking of the. And
this, dude, this is the one over Christmas break when we were hanging out and we were playing this, and the song started. And I'm like, people say I'm crazy.
Oh yeah, John Lennon, dude. Yeah,
it's
watching the
very,
wheels.
Watching the wheels. Yeah,
Yeah.
Like just like right in the beginning, how it kind of starts like that, and
I love the Wurlitzer.
It just reminds me of it. It just reminds me of it.
Yeah.
That's how I relate to it. And hey, all the songs that it reminds me of, I like them. So it's like, why wouldn't I like this? You know. So
yeah, the whirly in this song is so hot. They do some real nice little fills and riffs, and
so whirly.
Way to go, Pat Sansone.
Moving on to track number 9. Leave Me, parens, like you found me, close parens. One thing, dude, one of the lines that really stood out, and if anybody's again been in a relationship, but I sit on the couch alone where you sit when I'm not home, and I feel so close to you. To me, it just feels like sort of like a relationship that's out of balance a little bit.
Oh yeah.
Like he's like really just wanting to be close to, his partner, and maybe, she's not there or whatever, she's gone, and you got that loneliness and emptiness that, sometimes can be in a relationship, unfortunately. But I don't know, when I heard that line, I was like, man, that's a good line.
I know. And to me, this is, again, it's these like ebbs and flows of that totally almost depressed kind of subduedness of the album. And then you go into Walken, which I love that it's spelled like Christopher Walken's last name as opposed to walking.
Yes. Lame. Yeah, this one definitely is I think to this point, definitely the most upbeat song on the album.
Yeah.
Right? Like it does have this kind of fun sound and feel to it, which isn't something we've had. But the song, it gets to that kind of after the intro part, it kind of gets a little attitude to it.
Oh yeah.
They also, I think, I don't know if we've heard it to this point in the album, but there is some slide guitar in this.
Yeah, there is.
I don't know if that's been utilized to this point yet, but I really like that. Just, I always like slide guitar. It adds a different texture to it. And especially if it's not overused on an album, kind of like this, I think it's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I think What Light is a really interesting one.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one that they released first, wasn't it? It's like a free download. Yeah. What Light?
Was it? Okay.
I guess that was like on like the original, I don't know if it was like iTunes or whatever, but like that was the song that you could download for free before the album came out. And I guess I was originally going to say, I don't know why they would have chose that. Not that I think it's an awesome song. One of my favorites.
I love it too. Yeah.
But then you could argue, you're like, well, shit, what about Impossible Germany or Side with the Seeds? But those are longer songs. This kind of still fits in that little like pop song sort of window for time.
Yeah. No, I'm with you on that.
And I don't know. I like the I've always liked the lyrics,
Yeah,
just say what you feel. Don't let anyone say it's wrong. And it's basically just to me, it's talking about art and people just like feeling that they can express themselves through their art. Because he talks about painting a picture, I believe.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, this is definitely one of my more favorite songs on the album. I really like it. Then we go to
and there's a light. What light? And then he says there's a light. White light.
Yeah. Trippy. Now we go to the last track. On and on and on. Well, dude, I had no idea about this, but he wrote it as an ode to his father's experience after the death of his mother.
I didn't either.
Trippy, man. Yeah.
Honestly, when I heard that, it made me like completely re-listen to the song in my head and just think about every lyric. And you're like, jeez, man, that is heavy, man. Really heavy, dude.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful. I mean, like, I don't know how you could have performed that song and not just wept.
Yeah, I don't know either. Because
like just talking about it, you're like, oh, I know. Man,
yeah. Well, especially kind of
heartstrings.
Yeah, I mean, dude, especially having the experience almost telling it from the viewpoint of his father, and like
Yeah.
his father must have been feeling and going through.
Dude, that line,
everything.
"Please don't cry, we're designed to die." Like, ooh, that's a heavy.
It's a tough one, man. I know. Yeah. Once I listened to it, I was like, oh yeah, I really like that song. But, and I listened to the words but all of a sudden they gain just like new meaning, they really do. So
now I'm going to say some, and I don't know if this is the case because I haven't read extensively up on my favorite Wilco album, which is Star Wars. But there is a song at the end of Star Wars called Magnetized. And I don't know if he's writing it like about him and his wife or it's about this, but it could almost be like a phase 2 of this because he talks about like having this picture of someone next to them when he sleeps, and he says, "I realize we're magnetized." Like, I don't know. It's interesting because once I found out about that, I thought about that song too. And I like I said, I haven't read. If any of the fans know,
Right.
I would love to know what it's about because I think you could also put it in this context. Anyway,
sure. No, I could definitely see that. Well, Graham, now we get to the point in the show where I think, we get to pick our scratches. So if you guys are new here,
don't
this is
touch it.
the point of the show.
I do not want to scratch.
It's perfect. But unfortunately, this is the point in the show where if your disc got scratched and you had to pick one track that you could do without or you could skip over, what track would that be? So, Graham, since you are the one who introduced me to this album, I'm going to let you do the honors. Take your time.
Dude, it's hard. Honestly, I thought about this a lot. I didn't have my scratch when we started this episode.
No. Oh, okay. Wow.
So, in this case, I do have to go with "Leave Me Like You Found Me."
Ooh, really?
So I'll take my pen and I'll just. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. Couldn't
you just
dare.
throw the album across.
Yeah. But yeah, it's tough because I love the subdued feel of the album, kind of the real melancholy feel of it.
Yeah.
But to me, I hate to say it, it's like I guess I would have thought in the beginning it could have been between "Please Be Patient With Me," "Leave Me Like You Found Me," or "On and On and On." But after hearing reading what "On and On and On's about, it's such a beautiful and like touching song. You'd be such a dick to scratch it.
Yeah.
I hope that's not what you scratched.
No, it's not. But here's the thing. So after I give my scratch, I will explain a little further. So I'm actually going to go with Walken, even though I love Christopher.
Whoa.
Yeah. Here's the reason I go with that one is because I kind of feel like it doesn't necessarily fit the album. With just the way it starts, like it is upbeat. And
I know that
there's just not that. I mean, look, here's the thing. I really like this album as a whole. And, I like the kind of, I don't know, the whole feel of it. And I just feel like this one initially kind of takes me out of that. For a little bit. And,
you don't think they even get into the jam at the end when they're getting
No, yeah. I mean, I like where it goes. It's just, initially that takes me out, and I could go "Leave Me Like You Found Me" into "White Light." I will say when I initially downloaded this and was listening to it, the last track on the album of my download was "Let's Not Get Carried Away."
Yeah, because it's the extra, right?
And that was going to to be actually my scratch, and I didn't know that until I started doing research.
It's perfect.
I know.
It's perfect.
Actually, it was perfect. Yeah. My backup actually was "On and On and On," because
that would have been my backup too. It's so sad.
Yeah, and I think "White Light" would be a phenomenal song to end the album with. I think that would be a great song to end the album with. But then learning more about like if we had gone to overtime, I would have probably scratched on and on and on.
Oh,
just because
shit,
I think,
really?
Just because I think White Light would be also just a great way to end the album. I really do.
What light?
What light?
Yeah.
What light, whatever.
Well, he does say white light in the song.
Exactly. That's why I get it mixed up.
I know.
So,
wow, that's interesting. I've always liked Walken. I absolutely see what you're saying about the way it starts. There is nothing else on the album that has that feel. But I also too feel like at the way it builds up and with the slide and everything, I feel like it does kind of build up in a similar fashion to some of the other ones we have aforementioned.
Definitely. Yes, definitely. It definitely does that. Definitely does that. So, well, Grim, I think that about scratches Sky Blue Sky.
It does. I still didn't touch mine, but man, it looked like I was really going for it.
Definitely. All right. Well, I think it's time to end this episode. If you guys have not gone ahead and given us a like and subscribe and maybe comment below, let us know your favorite track. Let us know what track you guys would scratch, because that's how the game is played. And we know it's a perfect album and you don't scratch anything. But you have to. Sorry.
You know, man, when I pulled this album out, I looked for that first disc and my Nuggets record said it. It wasn't in there.
Wasn't there? Dude, you're just going to have to look at all of them. All of them.
Someday it's just going to pop up.
Yes, it is. All right. That about wraps it up. It is time to go on the Dude Show.
Scratch a Track is produced by the Dude and Grim. Additional music provided by More. That's ... MORE. And the Tims, TIMNZ. Copyright 2020. The Dude and Grim Show.